Hello and welcome to Andre's weekly video blog number 31. Well, in the previous week, I should say, after spending a long week and a half recovering from this flu, I was greeted with yet another cold. But it was only a cold, and I was able to recover from the worst of it rather quickly. And, well, I'm still rather sniffly here, but manageable, and I look good. And I'm not a big mess like I have been for the past 2 or 3 weeks, most of the tail end of March. And I decided to come back here and do another video extending on my rare CD collection. Now I could go on forever with this, but I've selected 18 more CDs for the day. You see, my body's recovered, but my mind really hasn't. I can't even count or really speak right, because I've been resting so much. But anyway, here we go. These are all rare out-of-print CDs that I own. Some of them I bought while they were still in print. Some of them were things that I actually had after they went out of print knowingly, or I just picked them up cheaply or whatever. But I'll explain that as I go along. This is one of the most favorite albums in my collection. This is an album by Edgar Winter, and it's actually called Entrance. It was released in 1970. This CD has been out of print for a couple years, and I think it's one of the greatest works Edgar Winter ever did. It's very jazzy. So, if you prefer his rockier stuff, this may not be for you, but it's a very unique album. I put it up there as being his Sgt. Pepper or his Pet Sounds. Very Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chicago, but it's got a totally unique spin all its own that I just really can't describe. One of my favorites. And this is Miss Janet If You're Nasty, Janet Jackson's Dream Street. Now, Dream Street is her second album. It has a very Minneapolis-oriented sound to it. It's not quite Control, but it's getting there, and I don't know why this album is so underrated and why it's so hard to find on CD now. I think it's one of Janet's funkiest, and her brother Marlon produces some of this. So does Giorgio Moroder, Pete Bellotte from Donna Summer fame, and Jesse Johnson of the time. It's no wonder she'd get together with Jam and Lewis a little bit later to do some of her biggest albums. And this is Natalie Cole. This is her first album, Inseparable, on CD. This has a huge hit on it called This Will Be Everlasting Love. You all know that. And as you can see, it's from BMG. They never had it as long as I joined in the club, but I found this. It's rare. Not even always listed on Amazon.com, but a great record nevertheless. This is Tina Marie, Emerald City. Now, this is just recently out of print, which is really unfair because this is Tina Marie's contribution to the Minneapolis sound, and I just feel that it's really too bad that this jazzy album that could have been Prince-produced, really, is put out of print simply because it had longer songs. Some of these tunes here are, one of the tunes here is 7 minutes, and none of them go under the 4-minute mark. They take a little time to develop. This was not a commercial success, so kind of flopped for her, unfortunately. This is Donna Summer's album, I Am a Rainbow. It was released in 1981. Well, actually, it was to be released in 81, but it came out in 1996, and then went out of print again shortly thereafter, so I just got it. It's a link between her work with Giorgio Moroder, who does in fact produce this album, and Quincy Jones. So it's somewhere between that. It's a very good album, if you can find it. Here's Kool and the Gang as One. Now it says this is a German import. This is their last album they did with Eumir Deodato from Brazil. And it is a hit called Big Fun On. It's a great album overall. Very underrated Kool and the Gang with J.T. Taylor. This is James Ingram. This album is his first solo album, and has a number of good songs on it that are associated with him. Yamo Be There is on this album. So is How Do You Keep the Music Playing from the film Best Friends. And a very jazzy tune called One More Rhythm. And this album got kind of buried because of Quincy's productions with Patty Austin and, of course, Michael Jackson that did better. But it's a great album with a lot of great songs on it. This is Parliament's Trombipulation. It is so far the only Parliament Casablanca release from 1993 that's out of print. It's worth it just for this cover art on the back, which I will show you now. It's George Clinton with his huge trunk. It's one of my favorite album cover art bits. This album features a lot more Bernie Worrell and is very keyboard oriented, and maybe trying to be too songy for the jam fans of P-Funk, but it's a great album if you can find it. I got this while it was still in print. So, yeah. This is the SOS Band's album 2. This was released in 1981. This CD reissue was in fact released only about 3 or 4 years ago, but went out of print only a few months ago, which is really sad because this is a great album, very underrated for them. It's their second. It was before they got involved with Jam and Lewis, and after Take Your Time, Do It Right. Really good R&B funk album with a little jazziness to it. This is Ray Parker Jr., you know, post-radio, post-Ghostbusters. He's trying to have an adult sound here on this album called After Dark. He had a hit called I Don't Think a Man Should Sleep Alone, and it's too bad this album just didn't get the recognition it deserved, and he kind of went downhill after this until his recent comeback. But this is a rare CD. Good to get if you can find it. Good, smooth R&B. This is Lakeside's first album, Shot of Love, from 1978. Well, it's not their first album, but it's their first album on Solar. Anyway, as far as I know. And it's a very good album, very funky. The hit is It's All the Way Live. It kind of got this band started. It's before Fantastic Voyage, but, you know, it's kind of a good way to look at their beginnings. It's not their first, but it's a good way of looking at their early stuff. This is the Ohio Players' Contradiction. Now, while it's true that aside from a song called Hoochie Coo and Bicentennial, this album didn't really have a lot of hits. There was a good song called Far East Mississippi. You know, it's a good album just for them to stretch their instrumental chops on it. You know, there's not a lot of catchy stuff on here, but any Ohio Players album is worth it just for the album covers. You know. This is La Belle. Now, I got this knowing it was out of print. It was expensive, but I've been looking for Chameleon for a long time. This is a great New Orleans funk album. Very heavy duty. Excellent. Find it. Good price. You should get it. This saddens me. I actually had this album twice. This is Marvin Gaye, In Our Lifetime, from 1981. It was originally recorded as Love Man in 79, but Marvin rearranged the music. This album was reissued as a special limited edition and then went out of print again, as if the first edition hadn't got out of print fast enough, but I managed to find it cheaply. But don't be deceived. This album isn't worth 50 bucks or whatever. It's good, but no CD is worth that kind of price gouging. Get this if you can for 20. You can find it on eBay or something. It's a great album, great remaster. This, you know, I do not even know how I found this on CD. I didn't even know it was on CD. This is High Were the Miracles. Probably their first album. Very doo-wop-ish. If you can find it, grab it in a second. It was in a $5.99 bit. I just got really lucky with this one. Really heavily rare stuff. Now this is Cookin' with the Miracles from 1962. Another great out-of-print album I found. And the Commodores from 1975. Caught in the Act, one of their greatest albums. Hardcore funk, Lionel Richie there. See that. And it's out of print now. Again, a $5.99 bin special. Great. Now this is Slave, a great funk band called Slave. One of my favorite bands. And they released this album in 1988. I didn't even know they had this out. But Amazon helped me find it. I get it at a reasonable price. So it's pretty rare. Well, I think I've just about run out of time here, and I'm sure I can find more used CDs to come up. Well, actually not used CDs, but CDs that are rare to come up in the future. But, you know, for now, that's my collection. I'm getting over this cold, so I'm pretty happy. This is Andre, video blog number 31, signing out.